Hi, Greg here. We're going to go through the squat and some of the tips and tricks that I use to teach a squat and make sure that you're protecting yourself so that you don't get injured doing this. I'm going to start from the ground up like we always do. So the first thing you should do is set the position of your feet. What I want you to do is have your heels so that they're body or shoulder width apart. And then, depending on if you're male or female, your foot position. So for guys, I want you to have your feet parallel. And for women, I want you to have your feet slightly toed out, so 2 to 5 degrees, something like that. And that's to accommodate the different types of pelvises we have. From there, you have to set the center of gravity. I'll get you to turn sideways. To set your center of gravity, you want to have it in your heels or slightly forward into your arches a little bit. So to do that, what you're going to do is sort of drift your whole body back until you feel your toes come up. And what will happen is your quad muscles, the muscles in the fronts of your legs, will turn on. From here, if you slowly glide forward, right at the point where the muscles in the front turn off, that's when you should feel like your center of gravity is in your heel or slightly forward in your arch a little bit, okay? And that's the ideal position. You really want to maintain that position throughout the exercise. So don't let your center of gravity change as you're squatting, okay? From there, we want to set a neutral spine and our weight belt. So to set the neutral spine, and if you're not comfortable with this, go to the neutral spine pelvic tilt drills that we have set up for the building blocks and practice this. But what you want to do is arch your back all the way and then back off just a little bit. Okay, so you don't want to be in that fully arched position. You want to just be backed off, and again, you have to maintain that throughout the exercise. One of the tricks I use to try and help give yourself some cues whether you're maintaining that or not is to take a small piece of tape. And it only has to be a couple of inches. And starting at the belt line itself, you're going to take a small piece of tape once you're in your neutral spine and put the piece of tape directly on your skin, not on the shirt like this, directly on the skin, turn back like this, so that it extends right up your spine just a little bit. What will happen is when it's directly on your skin, as you lean forward, if you do start rounding your back as you're leaning forward, it'll pull on your skin and it'll tell you that you're rounding your back. So it's a great little, not even a penny trick that I use to teach that spine position. Once we have our neutral spine set, you're going to have to set your weight belt. So to set your weight belt, or your TVA as I call it, transverse abdominal muscle, what you're going to do is you're going to breathe in and push your stomach out, and breathe out and pull your stomach as concave as possible. You have to do this without leaning forward. Okay? Your TVA, the weight belt that you have built in, is not designed to move your body. It's only designed to support your core, so you shouldn't feel like you're crunching forward when you're doing this. You really make sure that you draw your stomach in, so you do it again, you breathe in and push your stomach out, and then breathe out and pull your stomach in, and really keep your chest up and keep your body in that position. If you're really not comfortable with this, then there are, again, building block exercise drills for TVA so that you can really get good at this. The one trick that I use to help give yourself, again, a little bit of feedback as to whether you're letting your stomach come out throughout the squatting exercise is to take a small, strong piece of narrow string and tie it around your stomach right at your belly button. That way, as you're going down through the squat, and it gets a little bit harder to perceive whether your stomach is in the lowest part of the squat, but if you're letting it come out, it'll push against the piece of string and it'll give you a little bit of feedback to make sure that you're keeping your stomach in. Okay? When you move from there to arm position, if you don't have any weight on your back, it's not crucial where you put your arms, but typically the easiest thing to do is push your arms forward as you're squatting, and it'll help you to maintain that center of gravity in your heels and in your arches. Okay? So, now that we have all of that set, we're going to start to squat. Now, I'll go through a few renditions so that we can see some of the problems that people are having, but ideally, what you're going to do is squat down, letting your body lean forward a little bit, and keeping yourself not as upright as possible. You really don't have to be upright, but you don't want to be cantilevered over like this. So the position that Jess is in right now is a great position, okay? Now, a few of the problems that I see people coming into the clinic are, the first one would be not enough range in the ankle itself. And what that causes is it causes you to push your knees back, and you can see right away that it forces Jess, just to maintain her center of gravity in her heels, it forces her to lean forward. When you look at this cantilever, this is lean forward too much. There's a lot of pressure on your lower back, especially if you start putting weight, you're carrying weight on your back. This is going to be very hard on your back. To correct this problem, go ahead and stand up. All you'll need is a small weight or a piece of wood or whatever. It can be 3/4 of an inch or an inch high. I'll get you to step forward just a little bit. Heels back on there. Back a little bit farther. That's good. And what you want to do is have your heel only on the plate itself. So you have a little bit of weight in your toes, but not an extraordinary amount. You're still trying to maintain as much of your center of gravity on your heels as possible. Now, go ahead and squat normally. Squat as upright as possible. You can see that in that fully squatted position, Jessica is really upright because she has the range in her ankles to be able to squat normally. Somebody who doesn't have the range, if their knees are pushed back, what they end up in is a much more natural squatting position. So now they're not cantilevered over so much, and there's not as much pressure on the spine muscles here to try and hold you up while you're squatting. Okay? So that's another trick that I use. Go ahead and stand up. Move these. Get you to turn forward. A couple of things to watch for. You should be squatting in front of a mirror because that's the ideal position to see your leg the ideal view to see your leg position. And your leg position, particularly shin position, is very, very important. So as you're squatting down, and this we see very commonly, go ahead and squat, is the dominant leg is trying to do most of the work. So most people don't notice it in the mirror, but if most people are shifted slightly. And what you do notice, if you're looking directly in the mirror, is that one shin is pointing straight down to the ground and the other shin is pointing out a little bit. It's an indication that you're relying on the leg of the shin that's straight. That's the leg you're relying on. What you really need to do is shift your weight over so that both shins are perfectly parallel to each other and your knees are directly over your toes. You're going to feel like there's more weight in the weaker leg, and that's fine. It's going to get a little bit extra work to even out your body. Go ahead and stand up. The other problems I see, and these are fairly common as well, is the hip stabilizer muscles themselves aren't strong enough to support you. And you can see this on both sides at the same time or on one side at a time. And most typically I see it both sides at the same time. And what happens is, go ahead and squat, is both knees are coming together like this. What this is doing is collapsing the arch of the foot, so it's really tough on your ankle and foot. But it's indicating to you, if you're seeing this in the mirror, that there's a weakness in the hip itself. It's not able to stabilize your legs, and even if you don't have weight on your back, it's not able to stabilize just the weight you're carrying like this. You have to try and force your knees apart so that your shins are perfectly parallel. Okay? If you can't do it, go ahead and stand up. If you can't correct it, then you need to go to the building block exercises and do the 45-degree leg raise and some of the other building block exercises to strengthen the hips themselves. And then try it again and work your way through it like that. Okay? So it's super important. Make sure you're squatting in front of a mirror and you're using all the tips and tricks to make sure that you're not going to get injured doing squatting. Squatting is a super important exercise and you need to be strong doing this, and I don't want you to get injured. Too many people are getting injured doing squats. Okay?